Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I went completely outside of my comfort zone to share this Christmas card with you. So first of all, I'm using this newly released Furry and Bright stamp set from My Favorite Things, which is truly one of my favorite designers and my favorite things, that is Tiddly Inks here. And well, I just love the images. You always have a larger area where the clothing is, where you can really play with colors and with some shadows if you want to, and then it's just a really simple face so that I can do really simple coloring over there. And then the hair, you have some guidelines, so this manner of coloring hair, because there are way more ways to color hair with your markers, but doing the flicking here and being guided by the lines that are already in the stamp itself really helps with getting this kind of result. So I'm doing some coping coloring, and as always I have stamped these images out on Transotype perfect coloring paper. Now, a really good paper, as I am telling you all the time, if you are having issues with bleeding onto your paper when you're coloring and adding multiple layers, then definitely try to change up your paper that you might be using. It's not necessarily you, don't think about that immediately. It might be that you just have a paper that gets oversaturated quite quickly and then cannot handle the ink anymore that you're adding. However, this paper, for example, is really good in that, and I have so many possibilities to add more and more layers. Now, I often say that I need at least 2 layers to be happy with the blend, and for most of the time it's correct. But today you will see, when I'm coloring her clothing from the girl here, that I won't be going over everything twice, because it's not needed in this case, but it all depends on your personal preference. From time to time I need 3 or 4 layers as well. You just add as much as you need. So normally, I must admit, I am one of those people I think that does like a really dark dog, and I don't know why necessarily. But today, since I already had this quite dark hair and shoes and all those things, I decided to go for a light furry dog, and I really love the colors that I used on the dog itself, which is a color combination that I use quite often, but not on a dog. And if you're curious about the color combinations that I am using today and you didn't catch everything while coloring here, definitely go to my blog post. There is a link in the description box, and there I am listing all the color combinations that I used for each part of the images. I try to separate it as much as possible. I didn't in the past, but lately I'm doing that just to help me as well. If I like a combination and I recall the card where I used it, I can easily find it back on my blog. So here for the rounded ID, I'm trying to leave like a small area just in between my darkest color and the lines of the image, and then I will fill it up with one of the lighter colors. It sort of gives the illusion that there is more towards it. It's like when you look at a glass and you can see the light catching on, but you also see that there is more to it. And it's sort of that idea that I try to recreate it. I will also do that for the clothing of the girl. From time to time I do that. I don't do that always, because it is also a bit more attention that is asked to avoid going right at the edge, and I love both. I love starting at the edge right away. I love leaving a gap like this. It's all preference, and I love them both, so I'm trying to switch it up from time to time and play a bit with that. So here I'm again using the same colors as for the shoes. I'm always like that, and you know me already. I'm trying to reuse combinations wherever I can. It's also a security that you have that things go well together because you're using the same colors. So, and then depending on the size of the part of the image that you're coloring, just limiting yourself to 2 markers instead of 3 or 4 can already change up the whole view and the whole result of your coloring. Now the little girl, many ways to color her, and I definitely think that I will use another color combination for this image for other cards, but I wanted to start with red. Red is always a popping color, and I just love it. Also today, as you saw in the beginning, I am going to create my own background, and it was a bit of fiddling because I don't do that. It's out of my comfort zone, but you see so many amazing backgrounds, and I just try to do the most simple thing that I could ever do. I don't know if you saw it, but in the past, I think it was end of last year, I created also my own background, but that was with distress inks, and there I did some really simple trees. And it worked out. It took me quite a long time, and I'm not really comfortable with it because I truly cannot draw. I really cannot. So if you're like me and you need stems for everything, it worked out my card, and I think if I can do it, you can do it definitely. You just have to put on that switch and go for it and try it out, and there are ways to simplify it even more than what I did, but I will hopefully not forget to talk about it well once you are there at that stage of this video. But yeah, I tried it and I'm really glad. There are so many inspiration sources out there, but while I'm talking about inspiration, I also want just to point some things out. Lately it happens more and more, and I don't think it happened to me, so I'm lucky. I love you all, and I'm so grateful for you to be here, and I hope that I can inspire you in any way possible. That's the whole idea of being here on YouTube and showing my process, so that you might catch something that you didn't know yet and just do something with it. I had some amazing crafters underneath you that were inspired by me, and they were so nice to give me credits, first of all, for the idea that they got, but also to just add me to their post on social media, for example on Instagram, by adding @ID into reality, and this way I can see the amazing creations you make, and I am always so flattered to see what you create, and I'm proud to be able to add something to whatever crafty experience you are having. So I also want just to see what you create with it, or what you take on, and what you like, what you maybe don't like, and what you change for yourself. And just being inspired by other people is not an issue, because otherwise I think we shouldn't be sharing things online if we don't want to inspire people, and we don't want to have other people sort of doing the same as you are doing. I think inspiring each other is the whole idea about being online. So I want to inspire you and see whatever you take on from what I share with you. Now, it's really important to give credits, and I must say that completely copying a card, I would never suggest doing that, because we all are different and you have your own style, so make it your own. I like clean and simple cards, so whenever I see something from someone else and I want to create my own version of it, I probably simplify it, because, well, that's just what I do lately. But you do you. That's really important, and just enjoy the whole process. But if you are inspired by someone, just point that out. First of all, because we want to see how we inspired you, and we want to see you grow, or we want to see what you specifically liked about what we created. But if you copy or just be inspired, just leave a note, you know. Just give a bit of credit to the one that inspired you, and it actually makes our day. In my case, if you create something, I had some lovely people on Instagram that told me, based on a YouTube video of me, that they created a card and I loved their version. It's also inspiring for me to see how my card could have ended up differently. So therefore, just give a little bit of a shout out. That always helps. And have fun doing what you do, you know. But just I wanted to point that out because I am lucky that some of you already tried some things out and were so kindly to add my name over there, and this way I could also see it, and I just love that. But there are other crafters that I'm following, and lately there has been a lot of copying, even not changing things, and I think it's a bit sad. And giving credits isn't much. And do you change it a bit, have a bit of fun, try some things out, and you get a whole way, and you will learn more yourself by trying to change it a bit, but being inspired at the same time. Well, you do you, so I will see whatever you put onto Instagram or so. I just love seeing what you create as well. Okay, so onto that background. As you saw me tracing sort of a circle, I didn't want to use a pencil because then I would have to erase things. So I loosely went inside of that circle with the lightest color that I was going to use on my background. Now then I created my hills, really simple, just half circles, a bit more flat, as we know from the stencils, you know, so I tried to simplify it. And then I went for a tree, which is one of the more simple trees that you can create, in my opinion. And you can see that I didn't know exactly how to tackle it. I'm a bit doubting while I am coloring, but I took 3 colors and I wanted that shadow on the left side, and there were ways to make it easier. I think also start using the lightest color, create your tree, and add later on the shadows, but I just had no clue how to tackle this. So maybe in the future I can do it a bit more efficient. But I just went with a line upwards and then bended it towards the left, have another line, make sure that they fit together, and then do a swirly line to the right. You see me creating this, I didn't prep anything, and I cannot draw again, so if you're like me, you can do this, because I did it. And this is not going to be a regular thing, I think, but I'm really glad with the end result, so maybe I should try to get more out of my comfort. It's an option. I'm going to add a second tree, where I thought that everything was failing, but we fixed it. It ended up okay. And then, how you can simplify this for yourself. My first idea was to just create a background and then have a panel with a circle die cut from, and just overlay that panel on top of the background that I did. This way you don't have to manually draw in a circle for the background. You don't need to stay inside of the circle. You can go outside it and it will be covered up by that panel with the die cut circle out of it. And I think that's a great way to simplify it for you. Also here and on the first tree as well, I started with a really thin stem, and it wasn't enough after adding the branches, so I just made it a bit bigger on the bottom, because it's most of the time like that in reality. But as you can see, these trees are really simple. I also decided to try it because I wasn't going to add any leaves. Now, if you want to see how to add leaves, you can be inspired again by pictures to see on Instagram, by blog posts. If you want to see someone color it, then again, I really recommend Amy Young on Facebook, that is doing lives, and she's also sharing the lives afterwards, or most of them, I don't know exactly. But she did some amazing trees lately as well, so I think I want to give it a go, but not right now. One step at a time, you know. So again, I tried things out. Also, normally my initial idea was to add the images right in the center on top of this background. Now, I tried that out, and once I did that, I sort of lost all the effort that I did on the tree. The bigger tree, it was completely covered by the clothing of the little girl. And so I decided to change it up and just add my images a bit more to the right to really show all my effort. And I think you should definitely do that as well. If you put a lot of effort into something and your images might cover it, then try to change your placement of your images, because you need to show off everything you did. Now, this was my effort to have a really simple background, and I just tried to reuse the combination that I did on the snowy hills. Um, but I just didn't like it, so you will just see me really quickly coloring this in. And then I was thinking, what will I do? The whole idea behind having a really light sky was to avoid going over the trees and changing their colors. So this way I have a really soft marker. It will not change the whole view of my background. Now I didn't like that. It was too light, and once I added the images in front, I sort of had the idea that snowy hills were disappearing, and I didn't like that. So, taking my favorite BG combination, BG 78, 75, 72, and I just started flicking. So at this point I was like, you go big or you go home, because it could all be ruined by adding this color. Now, as you can see, I'm doing some flicking, but I will go over it twice. So if your first layer is rubbish, then you just don't worry about it. You will go over it again. And then once I was with the BG72 over there, I saw that actually the combination with the Gs that I originally had on my sky was working quite well. So I decided to keep them and add them just on the top of my background. And this was really the point where I was so happy, because it worked. And of course it works, but I was a bit afraid of it. But this is a combination that works, and therefore I knew that, well, the transition would be easy or doable. But yeah, I'm just now I need to avoid the trees, because this blue will cover the brown, you know. So taking my time once I get close to my tree stems and branches, and flicking all the way on the other parts. Now, of course, it's easier when you have smaller areas, like the left side was really easy to do. This part is quite big, so I went back and forth quite a bit to get it right. But as you can see, I'm just flicking, and the more space I have, the, well, the easier the flicking is, instead of trying to avoid branches and stuff. But I think it was worth it, and I wouldn't know how to ink blend this having those trees already there. So I had to use my markers, of course. I just had no choice but using the markers. And then it was all about having the markers just right and trying to get that blend that I wanted, and going back and forth. Now, if you want to recreate something like this, then don't start with the light color. It's not needed if you don't want that. It was just a tryout and I didn't like it, so I had to change it up. But this definitely works, and it was a lot of fun to do. It took me a while, however. You can see that on the video. We are 18 minutes in and I'm still coloring, but of course there isn't any ink blending, so just going back and forth. And when I'm flicking, I'm also starting a bit back in the previous color to get a nicer transition. That helped me, but you do you again. And if you're not ready to do this, then you don't do this. I personally find it also quite hard. It's out of my comfort, so I won't be doing this every day. I won't, but I'm really happy with the card. So that being said, testing out in between as well whether the color of my images is going with the background. But of course this blue works with red, so that wasn't an issue. I'm also, this background, it might seem difficult, but again, the trees are the simplest possible. And then I'm just doing flicking. You can create clouds as well in your sky, but I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. We must be honest about it. It's just one step too far for me currently, but I'm already glad that I tried this. And we will never know unless we try it. So if you are like curious whether this is something for you, then you try that out and you have fun on the go. And afterwards you can still say that it's nothing for you, but at least you will know. So again, going over it to have a nicer blend. And then this background is almost finished and I really like it. But I already said that. But I'm just really proud, and we must be proud of ourselves when we do something that is not our comfort and we succeeded somehow. So that is the background. You survived my background. So now I'm going to add my sentiment. I'm going to put it in the middle of my panel on the bottom. And I'm just going to stamp it out with black ink. The same ink as I use for my images, the Gina K Designs Amalgam ink. This is Obsidian black, but I think you already know that. And once I'm happy with that, I can add my images. Now, since this is a wintry scene, I decided to add a bit of white jelly roll pen on top of it, and it took me quite a while again, but splattering was a bit difficult now. I should have die cut the circle out of just a scrap piece of paper, laid it over on top of my colored background and then splatter. That would be an option, but call me lazy. So I didn't do that, and then I stopped adding the white jelly roll pen. I also added some on the trees, you see that? Tiny details, it's all about the details. Okay, but I skipped that apparently in the video. So then I stopped, added the images because the images will cover quite a lot. So I didn't want to add all those white details to put them behind images. It was just too much manual work to do that. So adding the images and then filling up all the areas where I didn't have any white details yet, and just have a bit of fun with it, just a bit random. These are snowflakes, or that's my idea. Having some snowflakes, but I didn't want them to be on my images. It's like they are in front of a window sort of thing, and in the background there is snow, but in the front they are sitting outside of that circle, so I don't think that you need to add it on top of them. You can do that, you definitely can, but I didn't thought it was necessary, and that's my excuse for it. I'm adding the panel on top of a card base, and then we will finish it off using some glossy accents. I'm going to add it to the nose of the dog because it's too cute to not use that there, and then on the bow on top of the presents, so that every image has a bit of glossy. And that is my card for today. Really long coloring video, I know, but I hope that it might help you to go outside of your comfort as well, or to try to draw some trees. You never know. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too. If you like this video, you can always give it a thumbs up. I would truly appreciate it. I want to thank you all for stopping by and taking the time to watch this video. You all are so amazing. I wish you an incredible day, and I'll be back soon. Bye!